Hello there.
All right, here we are, everybody. Welcome back to Fouch Facts. Got another episode coming to you. I think I'm just going to hold the mic right here because I think that sounds best. All right, super exciting episode today. We've got a lot of stuff coming at you. Big show. It's got to be a big show today. You don't want to miss it. We're going to talk Star Wars: The Bad Batch. We're going to talk Loki. I talked to Pat McAfee, legendary Indianapolis Colts punter, legendary just human being in general. Pat's a great dude. I've got to meet him on a couple of occasions. I live in Indiana, and for a time where I lived, the Indianapolis Colts held their training camp about 15 or 20 minutes away from my house. So there was multiple times, even though I'm a Packer fan, where I would go and watch the Colts because it's a professional sports team that's essentially practicing in my backyard. So why would I not go check them out? But Pat was on the team at the time whenever I went, and the early years of his career, he was still relatively unknown, not very popular at this point, coming off of an alleged incident where he may or may not have swam in the Indianapolis Canal under the influence of alcoholic beverages. Alleged incident. So take that as you will. Anyway, but Pat at training camp, he was always very personable with the fans and everybody that was there. Super awesome dude, like I said. So a lot of good memories with him. Joked around with him at training camp because he's a punter. So, he kicks balls for a living. So he doesn't really practice that much at practice. He'll come out, do some stretches, maybe jog, a little bit, get warmed up, kick a few balls, and then he's done. But he stays on the field for the rest of practice. And during the time where the offense and the defense of the team is practicing, where Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck were throwing touchdowns and everything, he's walking down the sidelines of the stands, interacting with fans, taking pictures, autographs, all that stuff. And he's a super funny guy. He has his own YouTube show, his own podcast that you can find on YouTube at The Pat McAfee Show. Follow him on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and everything. It's an awesome show. Highly recommend you check it out. Giving him a shout out because he's an awesome dude. And like I said, I got the chance to talk to him. So Pat, he does take callers on his show where you can call in a number, and if you're lucky, you will get picked, and Pat will talk to you. You can ask him a question. You can, usually it's sports related stuff, but sometimes it's not. It's, I guess you could say like pop culture stuff. So it's pretty cool. A lot of good range of conversations are had on his show with his fans and his listeners. And I got lucky one day and was able to go on his show. Well, not go on his show, but I called into his show and he took my call. It was awesome. So I actually have the video of that. I was going to save this for the end of the podcast tonight, but I think it's going to be one of the more exciting things to show you and to talk about. So without further ado, I'm going to show you a small clip of a conversation I had with Pat McAfee. Hope you enjoy.
Check the tag.
If you could tell whoever did, it was good. It was great fridge. It really keeps things chilled. What do you want to talk about, man? This is, sports show. Just go ahead and just have go ahead and stage is yours. Can't wait to hear you, pal. Thanks for calling in. This is what shows do, by the way, AJ.
I know.
Thanks for taking the call, Pat. Hey, my question is, back when you had Rogers on the show, it's been a couple months ago, he was wearing an Empire Strikes Back shirt. I love Star Wars. It's my favorite movie saga of all time. I believe you said, now correct me if I'm wrong, you have never seen Star Wars or just bothered not to watch it. I want to know why is it? You seem to be a man of culture and substance. You have Thor's hammer on your desk. Whoa. Why have you not seen the greatest film saga of all time? Come on, man. You got to put a lightsaber on the desk, dude.
All right. Hey, Dev, listen, I'll get a lightsaber. Which one should I watch? When was the first time you watched a Star Wars, and why is it so near and dear to your heart?
I first watched Star Wars in 1997 when the original trilogy was released on VHS for the first time.
I was 10.
My dad got it for me. So I watched the original.
That's who it's for.
No, I appreciate you, Dev. That was a good call.
Yeah,
That was a good call. 1997, I give him a little... You're 10? You're 10 years old then? 97?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on...
So there you have it. Cool little moment where I got to talk to Pat. Like I said, super awesome dude. He has his own show. It's really awesome. Star Wars Real Talk says, hey, man. Hey, what's up, Star Wars Real Talk? How's it going? Hope you're doing well, having a good day, good start to the weekend. But yeah, so I got to talk to Pat McAfee, and yeah, I didn't ask him a sports question, but not everybody asks him sports questions on there. Usually it's sports related, football related, or what have you, because I mean, he does talk sports. He is a former NFL athlete. But yeah, I asked him a question about Star Wars because, as you saw in the video, I referenced Aaron Rodgers. I'm wearing a shirt from Pat McAfee's merch store, by the way. Return of the MVP. Rodgers is a, let's see, we're out of focus here. Let's fix this. Let's get back in focus. There we go. All good now. But, yeah, so Aaron Rodgers shirt, Return of the MVP. Obviously, it's styled after Star Wars because Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Green Bay Packers, greatest quarterback of all time. I will live and die by that debate. Aaron is a huge Star Wars fan, and Pat knows this. Aaron has talked about Star Wars on the show a few times. One of the shows that he was on with Pat, he had an Empire Strikes Back shirt on, so that sparked conversation, and we learned that Rodgers is a pretty big Star Wars nerd. I've known this because I follow Aaron on Instagram and everything like that. So I've known about his love for Star Wars. But it was cool to see him and Pat talk about it. But during that conversation, Pat made the comment he's never seen the Star Wars movies before. And that kind of, not surprising to me because Pat, I don't say he's like the stereotypical like jock, but he kind of fits, that mold of, sport jock type. Very athletically oriented, very, sport oriented, very football obviously oriented, not too much to deal with outside of the sports world. Now, since he's retired, he's opened up to it a little bit more. But he's got, on his show, he's got his desk, and on his desk he has some cool like memorabilia and collectible things, a lot of sports related stuff, but he has a few non-sports related things. One of the things that he has on there is he has Thor's hammer. He has Mjolnir hanging off the side of his desk. And so I thought, hey, this guy has Thor's hammer. He knows about the Avengers. He knows about Marvel. How has he never seen Star Wars before? I think a few people that he does a show with, a few of his, I don't know if they're employees, but his buddies that do the show with him are Star Wars fans, I'm pretty sure. And so I asked him, I said, hey, Pat, why have you never seen Star Wars before? And we had a little discussion, as you saw there. That was like the bulk of the discussion, that clip there. Like I said, that was really the meat of it, was talking about Star Wars and everything. We had a nice little conversation there. But before that, we also had a little bit more of a conversation that was pretty cool. We got to talk about some work stuff. He asked me like where I worked, how I was doing, and all that stuff. So really awesome guy. But yeah, I had the chance to talk with not one, but two former NFL legends. Number one, Pat McAfee. Number two, AJ Hawk. AJ Hawk, who is also a former NFL player, played with the Green Bay Packers, had a stint with the Cincinnati Bengals for a while. I can't remember. I don't think he was on any other teams, but AJ, legendary Green Bay Packer. I think he still is. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he still is a franchise leader in Packers history for tackles. My buddy Jacob Wyatt would know that. Shout out to Jacob. But yeah, so yes, I had the opportunity to talk with two former NFL legends in Pat and AJ, and I asked them questions about Star Wars. Pat was very nice, as you could see in the video, taking the call, having a conversation with me. AJ made the comment, though. He said Star Wars isn't culture. So, took some slight offense to that because I feel like Star Wars is a huge part, not only of American culture, but dare I say international culture. Anyway, it was cool just to nerd out with two superstars about Star Wars. And so thank you, Pat, for taking my call there. Thank you for having the short little conversation with me. There's probably tons of other better things you could talk about with better people, but the fact that you chose to spend, 5 minutes with me, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. You're awesome. So, got that out of the way. Cool little thing that happened a week or two ago where I called into the show, but that was pretty awesome. So now we're going to get into the meat of today's discussion. And as you could tell by the title of this stream and some of the stuff I put out on social media, we're going to be talking about some Star Wars stuff, obviously. The Bad Batch. You've heard me talk about The Bad Batch before. It is a animation show from Lucasfilm that is debuting on Disney Plus. It is from the mind of Dave Filoni. You've heard me talk about Dave Filoni before. He is the mastermind behind the Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels animated shows that were on Cartoon Network for a while before they went to Disney XD. After Disney bought the rights to Star Wars back in 2012 for like $4.2 billion, which is still just an insane amount of money. Anyway, so he's got this new animated show, and it's fantastic. You've heard me talk about The Bad Batch. I think I've got behind me somewhere. Yeah, it's right here. Got some nice little collectibles here on my table of stuff. This is it. Yep, this is it. So right here, we have a Hasbro The Black Series. Can't really see it with the glare, but this is Hunter. He is a character from The Bad Batch. Little action figure. It's pretty neat, pretty cool. But The Bad Batch, yeah, new animated show on Disney Plus from Dave Filoni, the creator of the Clone Wars and Rebels. You also might know Dave Filoni because he works hand in hand with Jon Favreau on The Mandalorian and is developing the what's called the Mandoverse, if you will. That's it's kind of like the Star Wars version of the MCU, a bunch of spin-off shows deriving from the Mandalorian show. Dave and John are doing fantastic work with that. So yeah, Bad Batch. You've heard me talk about the Bad Batch a little bit before, but today we're going to get into some like in-depth detail. I guess you could say this is another Devin's Deep Dives that we got coming here today. So, I'm going to change the picture here. We have a picture of the Bad Batch. I found this nice little fan edit on Google the other day. Very nice. Pretty cool looking. You get to see the squad. You get to see the Emperor, some clones, and all that stuff. So, what is the Bad Batch? The Bad Batch is a squad of genetically defective and like mutated clone troopers who are still able to fight and engage in combat and do all sorts of missions and stuff. But because of their genetic modifications and mutations, they have certain abilities that make them different from regs, as they call it in the show, regular clone troopers. So as you know, clone troopers are clone soldiers derived from the DNA of Jango Fett, the bounty hunter from Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, played by Tamura Morrison. And most of the clone troopers in the Grand Army of the Republic are just regular, essentially perfect clones of Jango, and they fight in the war, in the Clone Wars, help the Jedi, help the Republic. Awesome. One of my favorite aspects of Star Wars are the clones and the Clone Wars. And there are some defective clones that we see in the Clone Wars animated show, and we were introduced to the Bad Batch in the Clone Wars animated series in season 7. So, what are the Bad Batch? Obviously, they're, like I said, they're the genetically modified, mutated clones. They each have individual abilities that separate them and make them unique, and they give something to the squad that's, like an added bonus. It helps them on, unnormal missions. They're kind of like a Spec Ops team, if you will. Like the clone trooper version of the SEAL Team 6, essentially. So we're going to start off, and I'm going to introduce you to the members of the Bad Batch. If you look on the picture here that I have on screen, you see the Rambo-looking dude. That's Hunter. That's the action figure I just showed you a little bit ago. Hunter is the leader of the Bad Batch. He literally, his inspiration, at least from his physical appearance, is from Rambo, obviously. He's got the red headband, kind of like the similar hairstyle that Sylvester Stallone had back in the Rambo saga of movies that's come out in like the 80s. They released a couple in the 2000s here. I think the most recent Rambo actually released last year or the year before, 2019 maybe. Pretty awesome movies. Love Rambo, love Sylvester Stallone. Awesome dude. So, so Hunter, what his special ability is, kind of derivative from his name, he is able to sense like electromagnetic waves and pulses from things. So it makes him an excellent tracker, and derivative of his name, therefore makes him a good hunter. So that's where his nickname comes from. He's able to, especially since the clones were fighting battle droids in the Clone Wars, he was able to track the droids easily and, figure out where they were coming from and where they were going and stuff because of his heightened tracking senses and all that stuff. He's super good in combat. I mean, you can really tell that Dave Filoni styled him after Rambo because just of the way he fights, very ruthless, has an awesome vibro dagger, and just really, really ruthless, really awesome character. He's the leader of the group, and really great guy, really good soldier overall. Now we're going to go to the pale-looking clone trooper to the upper left of Hunter, who's got the robotic arm. He's saluting. This clone trooper may be a familiar person to you if you are familiar with the Clone Wars animated series. His name is Echo. Now, Echo we were introduced to in Season 1 of the Clone Wars in Episode 5, titled Rookies. Echo is a trooper who was part of Clone Squad named Domino Squad. New recruits, fresh out of training and fresh out of the Clone Trooper Academy on Kamino, about halfway through the Clone Wars. They were deployed on the Rishi Moon outpost, and they were attacked by, commando droids. The base got destroyed. But Echo and another member of Domino Squad, Fouch, were the only surviving members, and they survived throughout the events of the show. We see Echo and Fouch again, most notably in Season 3, where we get to see their origin story in Season 3. And also we get to see Echo and Fouch defending Kamino from Separatist invasion and from General Grievous and Asajj Ventress when they attack Kamino. And it's in this episode where Echo and Fouch are made ARC Troopers. Now, if you don't know what ARC Troopers are, they are the best of the best of clone troopers. I would equate them to, if you're Halo fans, if you play the Halo video games, ARC Troopers are like Spartans from Halo. They're not like genetically modified, but they have, they're the smartest troopers. They're the most effective combat troopers. They can do any mission. They are the best of the best. And so Echo and Fouch were made ARC Troopers, and then they have this whole journey through the Clone Wars and so forth and so on. But unfortunately, on a mission in Season 3 of Clone Wars, Echo was lost in combat. Now, it was presumed that he was killed in action, but he actually survived, and we see that he was captured by the Separatists in Season 7 of the Clone Wars and was experimented on and given bio enhancements and bio augmentations. And henceforth, you can see on his head, he's got like a headpiece that wraps around the back of his head. He's got the mechanical arm, and he's got different things attached to his head. He was hooked up to a bunch of computers that the Separatists had, and the Separatists were essentially like reading his brain, and from his brain they were like taking Republic military strategies. And so late in the Clone Wars, the Republic was getting their butt kicked because they were taking all this information from Echo's mind, and it was really, really gruesome, really dark. But eventually Anakin and Obi-Wan and Captain Rex find Echo, and they rescue him and bring him back. But because of his deformities, I guess you could say, Echo chooses not to become a regular clone trooper again, and instead chooses to join the Bad Batch. And so we don't see any more of Echo in the Clone Wars, but now we get his story picked up in the Bad Batch, and he fights alongside them. So kind of his specialty is he's a really good hacker. He's got the computer like arm appendage, the thing that like R2-D2 uses to like slice into computers and unlock doors and stuff. He's got that thing for an arm. So he can do that. He can tap into like, enemy frequencies and stuff like that. So he's like the hacker of the group, right? He can slice security systems and things like that, so forth and so on. Next, we're going to go, we're going to go to the big guy up just to the upper right of Echo, or not upper right of Echo, upper right of Hunter, just to the right of Echo there. You can see him, the big bald guy. He is Wrecker. Wrecker is essentially, he's the muscle of the group. I mean, as implied by his name. He's got like super strength, and he's just an incredible, formidable force. I would equate him to kind of like a Smart Hulk from Avengers Endgame. Not quite that size, but similar, abilities. Super strong. He's, intelligent enough, not as intelligent as the other clones, because part of his like genetic mutations is he's got the super strength, but he's not as developed up in the brain, I guess you could say. He's kind of got the mentality of like a child almost. But that's okay. because he provides some comedic relief to the group. He's got some awesome interactions with the fellow squad members, especially, Tech and Echo. Has some really nice, dialogue, witty dialogue with them. Awesome trooper, really funny, and really, really interesting character. Kind of the focal point early on here in the Bad Batch first few episodes because of some things that happened that we'll get into later. But yeah, super awesome trooper, super awesome character. I'm excited to watch his journey. So next we're going to go to the little kid. So you see this little kid, this little girl here to the direct right of Hunter, right underneath Wrecker. This is a new character that we've never seen before. Her name is Omega, and Omega is actually a clone trooper. She is the first female clone of Jango Fett. Now, I bet you're wondering, how is this possible? How is there a female version of Jango Fett? Well, it's explained in the Clone Wars show that ever since Jango Fett died in Episode 2, they've had to stretch his DNA to make it last in order to keep producing soldiers for the Republic to fight in the Clone Wars. So probably what happened as a result of this is Omega was created. It's implied in the show that she may have been, a result of genetic modification. So the Kaminoan cloners may have intended to create a female clone, or it just could be, a happy little accident that she turned out to be female. We don't exactly know yet. The show has led us in some certain directions that viewers and, theorists like myself try to infer. But we still don't know for sure yet whether she was, intended to be created as a female or if she was unintentionally created as a female clone. But still a really cool character because she is the first female clone of Jango Fett. Now, we still also don't know exactly her abilities yet. We get some glimpses of what they could be. Now, in some of the episodes, she's shown to have, it seems like she has a little bit of each member of the Bad Batch's abilities. And we'll get more into that later on, but, possibly some people are theorizing, like myself, that the reason her name is Omega is because possibly the Kaminoan cloners were all experimenting with the Jango Fett DNA template to create these genetically modified clones that we see in the Bad Batch, and with the intention of putting all of these clones and their abilities into one body, hence Omega. So, like I said, we'll get more into that as we discuss the episodes here as we progress in the show. But that's Omega. She's an awesome little girl, awesome little character. Can't wait to see what the Bad Batch future episodes have in store for her. So next, we're going to go to the trooper to the right of Omega, to the bottom right of Wrecker, who's got the fancy little helmet and goggles there. This is Tech. Now, as his name implies, Tech is the technology expert of the group. He can, kind of similar to Echo, he can hack into stuff. He can, reboot computer programs. He can fix things really good. This, that, and the other. Got some awesome stuff going on there. He's really good at, data analytics, so he can listen to radio broadcasts and frequencies and determine, different things from that for battle strategies and whatnot. So very vital to the group because he helps with the plans a lot. He helps, give important information that helps the group decide, where they're going and what they're going to do. Some stuff like that. So pretty cool. I'm going to take a quick drink of my Pepsi here because I'm starting to get a dry mouth. Pepsi is still the superior soda to Coke, by the way. Just saying. But, okay. So, yeah, Tech, as his name implies, he's a technology expert of the group. Pretty awesome. Very, very smart and kind of has that, stereotypical, geek type personality. Very, technology oriented. And because he's, super smart, the way he talks and stuff, he kind of talks with an unintentional, superiority. He, the way he says things and goes about things kind of has this attitude how does everybody else not get this? How does everybody else not know that? So it makes for some funny interactions, especially with Wrecker. It has a lot of great banter back and forth with the rest of the squad. So now we're going to go to the gray-haired trooper, the little mean-looking dude to the very far right of the screen, this is the final member of Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch. This is Crosshair. And as Crosshair's name implies, he is the sniper of the group. He is the marksman. And Crosshair is extremely deadly with any weapon. He can hit any shot from any angle in any circumstance or condition. He is just ruthless. He is, I don't know how else to explain it. He is a, killing machine. He has the accuracy, 100% accuracy, trying to, it's like Hawkeye. He's like Legolas. He's like Mark Wahlberg's character from Shooter. He can hit any shot from anywhere. He's just insane. So, force to be reckoned with. We're going to get more into Crosshair as we discuss future episodes, which we're going to get into now. So, we're going to dive into each episode that has come out so far, and going to, briefly explain each one. I might do breakdowns where I go more in depth and detail to each individual episode. Let me know if that's something you would like to see later on. Something I'd definitely be willing to do. So we're going to get back into it. We're going to go talk about Bad Batch episode 1 here. Now, the first episode of Bad Batch starts off with the Clone Wars again. It's the very end of the Clone Wars. This is directly overlapping with the events of Revenge of the Sith. And we pick up the Bad Batch's story on this planet. They are aiding Jedi Master Depa Billaba and her Padawan Caleb Doom on this kind of it's like a snowy planet, but it's not like ice planet like Hoth. And they are fighting against the Separatists, and they're getting their butts kicked. The clones and the Jedi are losing the battle. And Caleb Doom has been sent to get reinforcements, and the reinforcements are the Bad Batch. So the Bad Batch come in, they save the day, and right after they save the day, Order 66 is given. So we get to see Order 66 again in animation form. It's really cool. We got to see it in Clone Wars Season 7, the Siege of Mandalore arc. Really awesome. Some of the best Star Wars content you will ever see. Some amazing stuff going on there. But yeah, so what happens is how I was telling you how the Bad Batch have, these genetic modifications and mutations. They don't follow Order 66 because of their, like I said, their modifications. They aren't prone to it like the other clone troopers are. So part of the episode is them protecting, or at least trying to protect, the Jedi. Unfortunately, Depa Billaba, the Jedi Master you see here, is killed by her clone troopers, but her Padawan, Caleb Doom, survives. And the Hunter tries to help Caleb, but Caleb is very cautious because obviously there's everything going on. He doesn't know if he can trust Hunter and the Bad Batch. But the cool part of the episode is that Crosshair actually follows Order 66 to some degree. It's not as intense as the other clones, but it's subtle. It's there enough to make him try to kill the Padawan. But Crosshair is obviously unsuccessful at this, and Hunter lets the Padawan Caleb Doom escape. Now, cool little thing about Caleb Doom here that I want to talk about. That name may sound familiar to you if you are fans of the Clone Wars and more specifically of the Rebels animated show, because Caleb Doom would go on to be one of the main characters in Star Wars Rebels, although he would be known by a different name. He would be later known, take up the alias of Kanan Jarrus. So if you watch Star Wars Rebels, Kanan Jarrus is Caleb Doom. That revelation happens in Season 4 of Rebels. So this little Padawan here turns out to be Kanan Jarrus, who's awesome character in Rebels, awesome character in Star Wars. So cool little thing there. We get to see how, Caleb or Kanan survived Order 66 and got to be where he was and who he was in Rebels. So that's pretty cool. So pretty much the rest of the episode just deals with the transition of the Republic to the Empire. We get to see Palpatine give the speech again that he gave in Revenge of the Sith, where he's like, the Republic will be reorganized into the First Galactic Empire. That was a really bad Palpatine impression, but hey, we're just here to have fun, right? So we get to see that in animation form. That's really cool. Actually, a cool thing about this episode is that Governor Tarkin from Episode 4 who's still Admiral Tarkin at this point, is in the episode. And you can start to see how he's pushing for the clones to be phased out so that the Empire can start using like more traditional recruits for the military instead of clone soldiers. So like I said, the rest of the episode just deals with the transition of the Republic to the Empire, and it's really cool to see because this is something that we haven't seen in Star Wars. We got a little bit of it in Revenge of the Sith. We got a little bit of it, we didn't get a little bit of it because the Republic had already been turned to the Empire in Rogue One and Rebels. But this is a really cool thing to see. Not only is it a cool thing to see from that aspect, but from the aspect of clone troopers themselves, from the Bad Batch, how they react to everything with them being different and set apart from the regular clone troopers. So as the rest of episode 1 progresses, the Bad Batch is introduced to Omega. We've already talked about her, you know a little bit about her, and they kind of team up to escape Kamino. And during this, Crosshair is captured by Tarkin because Tarkin realizes that Crosshair actually did try to execute Order 66, so he maybe isn't as defective as what may seem. So Tarkin captures Crosshair and amplifies the inhibitor chip, which is the thing that makes the clone troopers obey Order 66. I'll make a video about that, kind of explaining that and breaking it down for those of you who've never heard of the inhibitor chips before. But essentially, he amps that signal up and forces Crosshair to, betray the Bad Batch and to fight them and hunt them down. So the end of the episode is Crosshair turning against his former brothers and squad mates and goes to hunt them down. So now we're going to go to episode 2 of the Bad Batch, which is titled Cut and Run, where at the end of episode 1, the Bad Batch are trying to figure out where we're going to go. And so Hunter says we got a friend in the J19 sector, which J19 is the coordinates for Silicamai. Now, Silicamai is important because it has a very special character in Star Wars. It has a clone trooper. You see this clone here with kind of like the receding hairline and the mullet kind of. That's a clone trooper. That is a, what's the word? I can't think of the word. A defected, not defective, defected. So he quit the army. I believe his backstory is, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm positive I'm right on this. Cut, who is this clone trooper here that you see in the picture on the right, he fought in the Battle of Geonosis, and I think his ship was one of the gunships that gets shot down in Attack of the Clones that we see. And he survives the crash, and he decides, this isn't the life that he wants to live. He doesn't want to just be a soldier that mindlessly follows orders. He wants to have a life. He wants to have a family. So he runs away and, defects from the Republic Army, meets his wife, and they have some kids. So, this is another, we see this in the Clone Wars Season 2. It's another cool little thing to see, humans and alien species in Star Wars are able to reproduce. It's kind of a weird thing, but it's a thing. It happens. So Cut defects from the Republic and has a family. We're introduced to him in Season 2. And the Bad Batch, when they're on the run, trying to run for the Empire, find Cut. They go to him for help. They, they explain what's going on. But Cut already knows this because Captain Rex, who's one of my favorite characters, who was also introduced to us in the Clone Wars, has already come to Cut and explained everything to him. So Cut helps out the Bad Batch. There's this cool little moment where Omega, when she comes off the ship, because what you have to understand about Omega, who's a little girl, she has never experienced anything outside of Kamino. So she only knows range. She only knows laboratories and stuff like that. So she gets to see another planet for the first time. It's very similar to like Rey in The Force Awakens, where, she goes to Takodana with Han and Finn and Chewie, where, she says, I didn't know there was this much green in the galaxy. We get a similar moment in episode 2 of the Bad Batch where Omega steps off the ship and she just picks up dirt and she's just like, whoa, what is this? And it's just dirt. It's nothing special, but it's still a little innocent moment that shows how sheltered Omega really has been. She plays with Cut's kids and they go on some, mischievous adventures. And we kind of have a similar dynamic with Hunter, the leader of the Bad Batch, and Omega, that's similar to Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, and Grogu, Baby Yoda from the Mandalorian show. Kind of similar relationship going on there. So, again, the Bad Batch, they go to Silicon Eye. They reunite with Cut, the defected clone trooper from the Clone Wars. And the Bad Batch help Cut and his family get away and start a new life. And cool little fun episode there. Moving on to episode 3. Episode 3 is titled Replacements. And we kind of shift back to the perspective and focus of Crosshair and the Empire and Tarkin. So, Tarkin, again, he's still leading the initiative of we need to phase out the clone troopers and introduce regular soldiers. So this episode, we kind of see the seeds planted for that, for stormtroopers overtaking the Republic Army. So we have 4 recruits here, 4 replacements, where they are chosen by Tarkin, by the Empire, to be under the command of Crosshair. You can see they are wearing clone armor, but I mean that's just standard military procedure. They're still going to use the same armor and weapons as the clone troopers did, but they're human soldiers. They're recruits. They're volunteers. So they go on a mission with Crosshair. They are sent to Onderon to deal with some rebels. The rebels that they are sent to deal with are Saw Gerrera. Now, Saw Gerrera might be another familiar character. And the reason I say that is because we are introduced to Saw Gerrera in the Clone Wars. Saw Gerrera is in Rebels. And if you remember, Saw Gerrera was also in Rogue One. He's the one that kind of helped rescue Jyn Erso and keep her safe. And super interesting character. He's also in Jedi Fallen Order. We see him interact with Cal Kestis on Kashyyyk. Pretty cool. But yeah, so Crosshair and his team are sent to, eliminate the rebels. But Crosshair, obviously, with his Order 66 protocol and, direct obedience kicking in, he has no problem with executing innocent civilians. But his troops that he's leading have problems with this because, they signed up to defend the Empire, but they didn't sign up to kill innocent civilians. So we have this really dark scene where Crosshair eliminates the soldier that, disobeys the order. He just kills him in cold blood. Really dark scene, really powerful scene. Because, we kind of get the boot is being laid down, so to speak. The authority is laid down. And the other troopers, they're unsure how they feel about this. They're conflicted. But it's awesome to see because, again, it's this transition of Republic to Empire. We're seeing things from the perspective of the stormtroopers for the first time. So it's cool to see that they have some humanity in them. But so really, really interesting episode. Also in this episode, we see the Bad Batch get stranded on this asteroid type planet. And their ship is sabotaged by this creature that feeds off of electrical energy. Omega ends up befriending the creature and saving the day and stuff. So that's going on. It's just kind of like a filler episode, just to kind of explain, what Crosshair's doing and what Tarkin and the Empire are up to. But now we're going to switch to episode 4. Episode 4 is titled Cornered. Now, the character you see here, if you have seen The Mandalorian, both seasons of The Mandalorian, you'll recognize this as Fennec Shand. Fennec Shand is a bounty hunter, a very legendary bounty hunter in Star Wars, at least in the time of the Empire and the Rebellion, in the especially in the events of the Mando show. Fennec Shand, a female bounty hunter who was played by I think her name is Ming-Na Wen, pretty sure is what her name is, in Mando, who was also the voice of Mulan in the Mulan movie, but Fennec Shand is kind of like Crosshair in the sense that she's a really good sharpshooter, really good sniper, really, really deadly combatant, really fearsome bounty hunter. And so because the Bad Batch are disobeying the Order 66 protocols, they've been branded traitors to the Empire, and so they are being hunted down by bounty hunters. And in this episode, we get to see them being hunted by Fennec Shand. Pretty cool to see. They have a city chase where they're it's not on Coruscant, but it's kind of like Coruscant in Attack of the Clones, where Anakin and Obi-Wan are chasing Zam Wesell through the sky streets of Coruscant, kind of similar to that. Anyway, the Bad Batch end up escaping and everything, and Fennec loses their trail, and that brings us to the next episode, titled Rampage. Now, after the events of episode 4, Cornered, the Bad Batch go to this, I want to say the planet is Ord Mantell. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's Ord Mantell. Where they meet a old Republic contact, an informant, who helped out the Jedi during the Clone Wars. And it's a Trandoshan. Her name is Sid. Now, Sid was a kind of similar character, like I would say a Maz Kanata from the sequel trilogy. Not really like good or bad, but, kind of like a smuggler type person. She contracts smugglers and bounty hunters and just kind of has her own little somewhat shady business going on. But she would, sell her information and secrets to the Jedi during the Clone Wars to help them out and stuff like that. So that's how the Bad Batch know her. They go there and are looking for work because, the Bad Batch, they need credits. They need money to survive in this new world. And so Sid says, yeah, I'll help you out, but you gotta do some work for me. And so part of this work is they have to go on a mission to rescue, I believe the name is Moochie. So you see this Rancor, this baby Rancor. This is Moochie. So the Bad Batch, they think that Moochie is like a person, right? They think Moochie is like a hostage that's been kidnapped or something. No, Moochie's a baby Rancor. Now, who hired Sid to retrieve Moochie? Well, Jabba the Hutt. We find out in the show that Bib Fortuna and Jabba the Hutt were the ones that went to Sid to get Moochie back. And so I don't know if this is 100% true or not because it's not been confirmed, but it's very possible that this baby Rancor, let me put the picture up again, this baby Rancor is the same Rancor that Luke Skywalker fights in Return of the Jedi. So there is some speculation about this because we're unsure of it, because I know in the old canon, I think it was like explained in the Return of the Jedi novels and books that came out way back when. The Rancor went by a different name, but I can't remember if that was before or after the Disney purchase of Lucasfilm. So Disney and Lucasfilm could be changing the canon now, and the Rancor's name could be Moochie, but we're not entirely sure. But just cool little connection there, because once the Bad Batch capture the Rancor and rescue it, Bib Fortuna, who was the guy, the pale Twi'lek guy from Return of the Jedi, who was like Jabba's right-hand man, comes to pick up the Rancor. So we get to see him. We get to see that. So like very, very little cool Easter egg connection that this could be the same monster that Luke ends up fighting in Return of the Jedi. Unconfirmed, but that's just my theory. So we're going to move on now to episode 6, titled Decommissioned. Episode 6 was a very interesting episode for the Bad Batch show because it moves things along in terms of the plot and the story. So Bad Batch are still working for Sid, doing various odd jobs and whatnot. And the job that they have to do now is they have to go to this old abandoned, it's like a processing plant where, old droids and things like that, battle droids from the Clone Wars and just, astromech droid and protocol droids are on Corellia are smelted down and recycled for parts and stuff like that. Not really like a scavenger center, but kind of like a repurposing facility, I guess you could say. The Bad Batch have to go there because there is a commander droid from the Clone Wars. Now, commander droids were like the tactical geniuses of the Separatist forces in the Clone Wars. And there are some people who want to take this droid and download its like memory banks and stuff to get the strategies on how to fight the clones, because it's the rebels. This is kind of the seeds of the Rebel Alliance being formed here. And so, some people are wanting to learn how to fight the Empire, how they can fight the clones and stuff like that. So the Bad Batch, through Sid, have been tasked with retrieving this droid before it's destroyed and stealing its memory banks. While they're on this mission, they come across the Martez sisters. Now, the Martez sisters are also from Clone Wars Season 7. Now, I'm talking a lot about the Clone Wars and Rebels here because it's all interconnected with some other things from Star Wars. So you're going to have to watch Clone Wars. You're going to have to watch Rebels if you want to understand what's going on in the Bad Batch. I don't have enough time to sit here and explain everything to you. I wish I could, but that'd just be too long of a show. But yeah, so the Martez sisters are from season 7 of the Clone Wars. They helped out Ahsoka. Ahsoka helped them out in a little episode arc. They went on some mischievous adventures. But the Martez sisters are also after the same droid that the Bad Batch are after. So they kind of are at odds against each other, but then end up working together because the battle droids that are in this factory are activated. And so the Bad Batch and the Martez sisters have to fight against the battle droids. And they like I said, they kind of team up and get out of that sticky situation. And at the end of it, the Martez sisters end up letting the Bad Batch take the droid and its information banks back to Sid. So the mission accomplished. But at the end of the show, the Martez sisters contact this unknown person. They have this, the person they're working for is wearing like a cloak and a hood, but it's obviously, the point of view is from like the back of this person, so we don't know who they are. And they said, we just ran into some clone troopers who aren't part of the Empire, so we figured you may want to know who this is. So there's a big mystery about who this person was going to be. So now we're going to get into episode 7 titled Battle Scars. And this person is none other than Clone Captain Rex, who was, aside from Obi-Wan Kenobi, probably Anakin Skywalker's closest and best friend in the Clone Wars. Captain Rex was the leader of the 501st Legion of Clone Troopers under the command of Anakin Skywalker during the Clone Wars, and a friend of the Bad Batch, obviously a friend of Echo, because Echo used to fight in the 501st before he was captured by the Separatists, so they're really good friends there. But Rex was the informant that the Martez sisters were working for, and so the reason Rex wants the battle droid, the tactical droids databanks, is so they can analyze, the strategies that the Separatists use to fight the clone troopers. Again, we're seeing the seeds planted of the Rebel Alliance here. It's all pretty cool. So the Bad Batch and Rex meet up and, kind of reunite and catch up with each other, and they have some really awesome conversations and really, really interesting episode. So this episode, they have to go to a shipping scrapyard planet called Braca, and they go on some adventures there. Now, Braca, if you have heard of that before, it's because you have played the video game Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. Now, the game starts off on the planet Braca. Cal Kestis, who's the main character, works as like a scavenger there, a scrapper. So, pretty cool little connection and Easter egg there. The Bad Batch and the Captain Rex go on a little adventure. Really awesome episode there. And but unfortunately, at the end of the episode, they aren't caught, but they are saw by the workers on the scrapyard. And so the workers of the scrapyard alert the Empire, and the next episode of the Bad Batch, episode 8, the Empire shows up on Braca, and the Bad Batch have to fight them. I've seen this episode. I watched it this morning, but I'm not going to get into it today. I'm going to make its own video, because like I said, I'm going to make videos where I break down the episodes more in detail, and I can talk about them, exactly what happens and stuff like that, give my thoughts and reviews about it. But it was an awesome show, awesome episode. So I can't wait to talk about it with you, because it's going to be really cool. So now we're gonna transfer out from the Star Wars stuff, and we're gonna talk about something really exciting that I've been waiting for a long time, ever since it was announced, and that is, of course, Loki. Now, Loki is another one of the Marvel Disney Plus shows that premiered a couple of weeks ago on Disney Plus, that follows the character of Loki after the events of Avengers Endgame. Now, if you're familiar, in Endgame, the Avengers go back in time to stop Thanos, steal the Infinity Stones out of from the past and bring them to the present to fight and defeat Thanos. But in doing this, they have to travel back to 2012 from the events of the first Avengers movie, where they were fighting Loki. And Loki is able to steal the Tesseract and escape and come out of that timeline. So the events of Loki have to deal with the ramifications of that. So what ends up happening is that Loki is captured by the Time Variance Authority, who are kind of like the timeline police, if you will. And, they're like, hey, you can't do this because it messes with the timeline and it can be catastrophic to the space-time continuum and all this stuff. So it's I keep hitting my desk and it's shaking the camera, so I apologize for that. But yeah, Loki, like I said, deals with the ramifications of Loki escaping in Endgame and trying to, carry out his evil machinations and stuff. He's captured by the TVA, and we get to meet Owen Wilson's character, Agent Mobius. I'll show a picture here. So I was really kind of skeptical about Owen Wilson being in Loki because, Owen Wilson's a very iconic actor. He has some pretty awesome movies. Obviously, he's known as the voice of Lightning McQueen in Cars, but he's got like the popular like meme, like, wow, he's also Marley and Me and stuff like that. So I've known Owen Wilson from these roles, and so I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna respond to his character. I hope I don't think about wow, I hope I don't think about his other roles, and that takes me out of the experience. But he is crushing it in Loki alongside Tom Hiddleston. They have a great relationship together. Like I said, he plays Agent Mobius, and he's kind of like Loki's babysitter, if you will, through the events of the show. So the first episode of Loki was really good, very very emotional because we see the Loki from the 2012 timeline from the events of the first Avengers movie. He's able to see how the rest of his life plays out, how the events of the MCU played out. He sees his mother's death again. He sees his own death and all this stuff. And he's just like, has this moment of realization. And so the first episode ends with Mobius telling Loki, hey, we actually need your help because we're tracking somebody who is jumping through the timelines and causing a whole bunch of chaos. And who is it? It's a variant. It's a variant named Loki. It's another Loki. And episode 2 just debuted this past Wednesday, and we learn that the variant Loki, that the actual Loki and Mobius are chasing, is Lady Loki. So it's going to be pretty awesome. I'm going to make some videos and maybe some streams where I dive into the Loki episodes more in depth and go into them more in detail, where I can discuss them and talk about them, like I said, more in depth. Because it's really awesome. I really like it. Loki, it's such a good show so far. Tom Hiddleston is one of the best actors in the MCU. He's amazing. The production team behind Loki, the writers, the directors, the producers, they're all doing a fantastic job so far. I can't wait for the next episode. It's going to be great. But yeah, I'm going to break all that stuff down in future videos where I talk about that and do all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be exciting. I can't wait for it. I think that's going to do it for today's show. So I just want to thank everybody for, tuning in, for watching this, whether you hopped on here live and were with me in person, or if you watch this later when it's uploaded to YouTube in the playlist, in the Fouch Facts playlist. I just want to say thank you to everybody for your support. Thank you for watching me. I know there's probably a million other things you could do with your time that would be better investments into than listening to me ramble about, nerdy stuff. But the fact that you chose to spend a little bit of your time supporting me, watching my content, subscribing to my channel, it's awesome. The channel's at 30 subscribers now, which is insane. Can't believe it. That's just so cool. So excited for that. But that's going to do it for today, guys. So thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.